Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfares with the top economic reports. On today's show, will agrotech allow Japanese farmers to evade price and demand distortions? And Hong Kong continues to rumble as farmers voice their frustrations. First, the headlines. The US and China agreed to drop tariffs on a wide range of technology products in a deal that could reach $1 trillion in trade. The updated technology deal would include 200 different tariff categories, including next-generation semiconductors, which now have tariffs as high as 25%. Other products included under the Expanded Information Technology Agreement include MRI machines and GPS devices, both with tariffs of up to 8%. The US, the European Union, and Japan have been pushing to update the deal, which was originally struck in 1997, but Beijing had been reluctant to go along. Iran and the US failed to reach an agreement to curb Tehran's nuclear program required by a November 24th diplomatic deadline. Following 2 days of exhaustive negotiations, real gaps remain between Washington and Tehran, according to an American diplomat. The main sticking points in the talks are the future size of Iran's nuclear capacity and the speed at which the Western sanctions would be removed. Iran's leaders are under growing pressure to secure a nuclear deal as a 25% drop in oil prices and international sanctions threaten to further derail the domestic economy. Japanese shares outperformed in Asia on Tuesday, with the Nikkei stock average rising to a 7-year high. Japanese speculators massively bought futures and call options in anticipation that Prime Minister Shinzo Abe may postpone a planned sales tax increase. In the US, the Dow and S&P 500 extended their run of record high closes for a fourth session on Monday, led by transportation and healthcare shares. The Dow and S&P 500 have each risen more than 7% over the past 3 weeks, their best performance since October 2011. European shares also traded higher on Tuesday, boosted by gains in the US and Asia. Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, during a visit to Germany, said Pakistan is a gateway of trade, offering unlimited possibilities for regional and global prosperity. Sharif's comments follow an announcement by the International Monetary Fund that Pakistan's economic reform program with the IMF is broadly on track. The IMF will now go to its board for the release of the fifth tranche of about $1.1 billion to Pakistan under the $6.64 billion program. Before realizing its ambition as a gateway of trade, however, the IMF urged Pakistan to deepen structural reforms to improve competitiveness in global markets.
Pakistan's location connecting Central, South, and West Asia promises limitless possibilities for regional and global peace and prosperity.
Agrotech holds the key to economic success for some rice farmers in Japan, but it does little to resolve the politics of large tariffs and price protection, which have caused price distortions and unclear demand. More in this report by i24 News reporter Daniel Roth.
This field covers over 275 acres in the agricultural region north of Tokyo. The rice field is the largest in the region, almost 30 times bigger than the fields commonly found in this area. The secret? It combines agriculture and high tech.
This sensor measures water levels in the rice paddy. The data is collected on the computer server so we can immediately see how the water levels have changed once we access the server.
Indeed, this farmer has decided to leverage technology to beat the deterioration in sales of rice in Japan over the last half-century, in part due to an inefficient system, which may be due to state subsidies propping up the industry. The agrotech route may change the tide for him.
By using a computer, we can see the data immediately and share with the other workers more easily. We can also accumulate records, which enable us to make comparisons with past conditions without pulling out old notepads from a bookshelf. If our supply then exceeds domestic consumption, we then need to start thinking about taking it overseas.
But export is complicated. Large tariffs have kept imports at a trickle, and price protections for the revered grain have propped up the price in Japan despite falling demand. This has resulted in a situation where in Tokyo, a 5-kilogram bag is over $22. This is about 3 times more than Sydney, Bangkok, or Beijing. The government is trying to restructure the agricultural sector and perhaps drop the focus on rice, ending production quotas by 2018, as the country engages in talks surrounding the proposed Trans-Pacific Partnership, a free trade agreement bringing together 12 nations of the Asia-Pacific region, including the United States.
Would the Trans-Pacific Partnership be a threat? I don't think it would be a threat. Yes, I am worried, though.
The opening of agricultural markets is by no means something that is agreed upon in Japan by rice farmers, who are a powerful voting bloc. They fear a meltdown with the influx of foreign goods. The topic is on the agenda at this week's summit of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum.
The Office of the Chief Scientist at the Israeli Ministry of Economy commenced its 4th annual company roadshow to China last week. This year's delegation is dedicated to life sciences and will visit 7 cities at the heart of the Chinese tech industry: Beijing, Jinan, Zhangzhou, Nanjing, Shanghai, Hangzhou, and Shenzhen. We're joined on Skype from Shenzhen by Avi Lufton, Executive Director of Asia Pacific at the Israeli Industry Center for R&D. Mr. Lufton.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Benjamin.
How have you been received so far?
We have been visiting, as you said, 7 cities, big cities, with 13 companies in the life science field. They are in several subfields like medical devices, pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and our goal is to increase the potential to fulfill cooperation with Chinese companies.
And what is different about this year's roadshow? I mean, is it bigger, or is it really just the fact that it's focused on life sciences?
No, in fact, the fact that it's life science is the second time we are doing this. We are doing in every year in a different field, in a cycle of 3 sectors: life science, clean tech, and ICT. So in this matter, it's like another roadshow, but in terms of the big of this event, it's the biggest because we are each company will meet more than 100 companies in China, and it's the first time that we are doing such a long trip from Beijing in the north through all those cities and ending in Shenzhen. So it's the first time we are visiting 7. Actually, till now we've done 5 cities or 4 in the past.
No, Forbes just ranked the 10 best health companies, half of which are Israeli. Is there a disproportionate interest in Israeli pharmaceutical companies?
I think so. They are expressing this anytime that they can do it. And I think in general, Israel is very attractive to the Chinese, and they are expressed in any chance that they have. And I think in this field in particular, because basically we had a lot to offer and to collaborate with them.
What other Israeli technologies are the Chinese most interested in?
Basically, those 3 that I mentioned: energy, water technologies, in addition to the life science, and as well as the ICT, are the most. In China, it depends on the region and the strength of each region, but basically those are the most interesting areas.
Okay. Well, Avi Lufton, Executive Director of Asia Pacific at the Israeli Industry Center for R&D, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Though far from the bustle of central Hong Kong, people from the world city's countryside have joined the ongoing pro-democracy protests. And as they voice their anger at income inequality and the threat of uncontrolled urban development, discontent continues to rock the island. More in this report.
They may be far from the bustle of central Hong Kong, but farms like this are one part of the story behind the city's ongoing pro-democracy protests. This community and its patchwork of agricultural land are under threat from powerful property developers. If a proposed multi-billion-dollar building project goes ahead, thousands will be forced from their homes.
If the plans go on, and there will be more and more land that will be controlled by the developers. And they will just build all the high-rise building, and they make them to make more money but not benefit the public.
That's why Becky and many others from her village come here to show their support. Beijing's refusal to allow free elections sparked the protests, but they also reflect a growing resentment against a powerful elite, a widening gap between rich and poor, and a severe shortage of affordable housing.
The rent is very high in Hong Kong, right? And many of our daily life are controlled by the property developers, and we see the problems. And we want to stop this happening.
The government forces me to sleep on the street. If the government doesn't take any action, I will keep sleeping here.
The authorities say the development projects will help meet the demand for housing, but only a small portion of the proposed area will be reserved for public or subsidized homes. The rest would have various uses, including private, government, and commercial properties.
Hong Kong's parliament currently leans too much in favour of the commercial and industrial sectors because it's not based on the public vote. Unelected members dominate the final decisions. That's why Hong Kong's political system has lost credibility and power.
The resistance to the project is a microcosm of the wider struggle for democracy in Hong Kong. And for many, the fight for real universal suffrage is also a fight to protect their homes.
And we move on now to Media
They may
Watch
be
for a
far
discussion
from
of other reports we didn't want you to miss. Daniel Roth, thanks
it
for
going?
joining us. Good, good, good. So are you lonely today?
I'm not personally, but today is, of course, Singles Day in China. 11/11, 11/11. A lot of ones, so it's Singles Day in China. It's essentially a shopping holiday. We can say that, I think. I think that's an okay thing to say.
The reason why, of course, is that they're
well-
protesting, right? Isn't it? Isn't
Yeah.
that a protest?
It's a long story, but the big story is Alibaba, of course, which had its IPO earlier this year.
Right.
They broke records last year in terms of online sales. $5.75 billion they had last year. They hit that with 10 hours left in the day today. So they went well beyond that
Right.
$5.75 billion.
It's a gift to yourself day, essentially.
Yeah.
It's a big, like, let's just, celebrate ourselves.
And people buy a lot of things for themselves.
Alibaba's very happy about that.
Alibaba is very happy about all of their investors are very happy about that. Jack Ma's happy about that. It's a big day, and it doesn't look like it's letting up. One of the big deals, actually, is that nearly half of it was online. Online shopping. Mobile shopping was tablets and phones. So this is marking again, we've talked about this a few times here, that everyone's moving to mobile.
That is, of course, the real single experience, being with your mobile.
Yeah,
right?
no, it's like it's Singles Day, you're looking for a present for yourself, and you're in your phone, maybe on the train or the bus or sitting alone on a park bench, and you're just looking through all the gifts, all the flowers, and you buy yourself a bunch of stuff. Maybe you buy yourself, a couple $1 million worth of stuff. It's
If you have it, right.
no, so it's a huge day, and of course it's just huge money we're talking about.
Always a happy day for Alibaba.
It's a happy day for Alibaba, happy day for singles around China, all around.
All right.
Also happening in China, the APEC summit. We've mentioned it a couple of times on the show. China is pushing for economic integration in Asia.
Right.
They want to keep the U.S. at bay.
Positioning themselves as the regional leader.
Yes, which they, you can say that they are just by default.
Right.
They want to kind of keep the U.S. out of regional dominance as much as they can.
Right.
Of course, at the same time, the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is happening, and this is a Trans-Pacific Partnership that is excluding China but includes the U.S.
Right.
So
as
there's
the main leader also, of course.
Yeah, it's essentially these are free trade deals, some that favor China, some that favor the U.S., some that favor both. that are doing the same thing that liberalization, trade liberalization always does. Deregulation, good for business leaders, bad for the vast majority of workers. Leads to a lot of problems we've seen in the post-free trade agreements and NAFTA and things like this. Done right, they can be beneficial in some ways with high regulation. It doesn't look like this summit is leading that way, though. This summit is leading towards deregulation, making sure that China kind of has its way with the Asian economic area.
Asian countries let it.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Daniel Roth, for that. That is the end of our Economy Magazine, your daily source for economic and financial reports at I-24 News. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfares. Thanks for watching, and join us again tomorrow.